Beautiful. Okay, so let me just switch back over and we will kick it off. All right, let me just share my recording and we are going live. We are live. Fantastic. All right, I have pretty sure I've been able to manage to do this. Go live. Excellent. All right, so welcome anyone from checking in on Facebook, and everybody, thank you for being here. As you know, it is the Empower Hour, the Empowerment Project, and we are at Module 4. So I'm just going to share my screen, and hopefully you can all see my screen, and we'll get the PowerPoint going from there as a few more people are joining us. Welcome if you've just joined us. And right, so we've got our PowerPoint up and we should be good to go. All right, so very excited. Thank you, Centercourt. Big shout out to Clay, Matt, Tara, Conrad, and Ali, and everyone from the Centercourt. But most importantly, especially the people that are here, right now, who are live with me for this next hour, where hopefully I'll turn your motivation into activation and really get a lot out of this module. Which, of course, where does it live? So remember, this is the Genius model that we've been working on. So week 1 and module 1 was awareness. So we did self-awareness. And then we went up to module 2, which was patterns. So we really looked at our morning and our evening routines. And then last week we did language, empowering language. So we're going to review the game plan under language from last week. And so where are we today? So under this core module of purpose, you'll see their values. And our values are so important. Our values are the compass that drive all our motivation in the direction of our goals and dreams. They really do help you walk your talk and live that life full of integrity and accountability. So and I'm going to show you a really cool way at the end of this on how to remember your values. So that's where we're heading. That's the Genius model that you've all seen before, and that's that's where we're at. And of course, the next week you'll see goes to the top of the Genius model under confidence. And that is, we look at your self-esteem and your identity. So that's a really cool place. Put it in your diary. Same time, same place for next week. All right, so module 4, as I said, values. This is what really taps into our deep motivation. It's the why behind why you play tennis, why you play lacrosse, soccer, and all the sports that we have on board here today. So I'm just going to stop and we're going to check in. We've had a few more people jump on. So in the chat box, get yourself ready, and I want you to type in, as I normally do. I want to know, so where are you checking in from? So you'd write New Jersey. Are you a coach? Are you an athlete? Or are you a parent? And then how many modules have you done? So this is module 4. So if you've done all 4, put in 4, 3, 2, 1. If you've just done 4 and 1, like Ash, just put in 4 and 1. So that's what I would love you to do right now in the chat box so that I can see. So I'm going to type it in. So I'm a coach, and right now I'm in Denver, and obviously I've done 4, 3, 2, and 1. So that's beautiful. Ash, 4 and 1, New Jersey. Lauren, 4, 3, 2, 1, New Jersey. Multi-sport. I love it. Who else have we got? We've got the parents. Yes, Jing, thank you. And you've done 4, 3, 2, 1 as well. Awesome. Ash, we've got our sport in there. Tennis. Fantastic. Thank you. And anyone else checking in, please go ahead, type it in the chat box and let us know. Lakeville. Where's MN again? Who can help me out there? Because obviously I'm still getting to know the US states. Is that mini something? Okay, Isabella, thank you. I've done 2. I'm in Florida, but from New Jersey, tennis and an athlete. Fantastic. Minnesota. Thank you. I thought Minnesota, MN, but thank you for improving my knowledge there. All right. So remember, this is an interactive webinar as we go. So please, the chat box is the place for you to type in your questions. Stop me at any time because I'm hosting tonight. Just even if you have a question, just type in the word stop in capitals, and then I can see it in my chat box, and I will stop and I will answer any questions that I can as we go along. So let's get going. Before we do, we are going to review language from last week. So for 15 points, you had to identify 3 negative comments that you say to yourself, or even coaches sometimes say to you. 3 negatives, you had to practice flipping that for 30 points, and you had to reframe them into positive statements. But in the chat box, who can tell me for 40 points, you had to ask yourself 3 future-based questions, but who can tell me, and those who missed last week, what were the most critical 2 words? If you're going to reframe your language, does anyone remember how to do that? And the first word, Jing Wang, you're on it straight away. Next time, Hong, thank you, next time. So if you missed last week, the key to changing your language, okay, is starting your sentences with next time. So instead of saying, why do I keep hitting the ball in the net? You'll say, next time, what have I got to do to hit it higher over the net? So that's a future-based question. And if you start it with the words next time, or what next, I love that as well, Hong. Thank you for that little addition. That will dramatically alter and change your thinking, rather than telling yourself, has anyone ever said, don't double fault? Or I don't know, maybe with lacrosse, don't miss this penalty when you really need it. Obviously what happens 9 times out of 10, you will double fault. You will miss that penalty goal. So just tell yourself, hey, next time, get under the ball. Next time, maybe the way that you need to release the stick in keywords. So that was last week. Pretty important module. And of course, if you missed it, remember it is on the Centercourt YouTube page for you to look at language. All right, so section 1, we always start with your unforced errors. Why potentially are you making errors with regards to values? And what we'll be getting into what are values in section 2, but what's maybe some of your potential motivation? What are some of your potential problems? So maybe you feel out of integrity. So you're basically saying, oh, I'm going to go and practice, but you don't. You're too tired, you're too exhausted, and you end up you go to the practice center, but you end up just sitting on your phone and not practicing. Perhaps you're out of alignment. So in other words, you're saying one thing, a bit like this picture here in front of us, but you're doing another. Okay, so you're out, your integrity, and you're out of alignment. The other one that I see all the time is a lot of teams and a lot of companies have values, and then when I ask the athletes, I say, well, what are the values of your team or your company? They say, they have no idea what the values are, or they can't remember them, and they don't even know why they're there really. So that's another unforced error that I see. So have a quick reflect on what might be some of the challenges with values. So right now in the chat box, does anyone know whoever you train with, do you have, I just want a yes or no in the chat box. Do you have values? Does Centercourt have values or does your team set values? Just yes or no, Lauren? Great, excellent. Excellent. We've got a couple of yeses there already. Beautiful. Lots of yeses. Okay, great. So no unforced errors here. All right, fantastic. So that's good. Now, if I ask you what they are, which I may ask you that later on, will be interesting to see if you can, know what they are. All right, so let's flip. It's a bit like language last week. Let's flip our unforced errors into winners. And what is it now? Is it that you feel inspired, you feel lit up, you feel full of energy, you walk your talk. My values are clear and my actions actually reflect my values. And this is the biggest thing about values. A friend of mine who's an elite basketballer, he said, what you do when nobody else is watching is exactly what the definition of values is. So when no one's watching, if you said that you're going to go and hit 20 serves to wide body tee, in each direction, then do you do that if nobody's watching, if mum and dad's not there, if your coach isn't there? Is that actually what you do, or is it not what you do? So that's one of his little things with regards to that. Again, remember, that's what we just did then. That's the process we call flip it. You flip your unforced errors into what we call winners by reframing your language, as we just did there. I feel inspired. I walk my talk. All right, so just rounding off section 1, now I'm going to share a story with you, which I like to do in section 1, about the importance of values. And this story is about the Junior Fed Cup tennis team from 2018. So the last time that I used to take Australian teams away for around 8 years. And the last time I took a team away, there were no mobile phones. So I hadn't done this for quite some time. And so all of a sudden, these players had changed, and that's them there. And so I thought to myself, how can I do things differently with this team? Because I know that, just the culture of children today have changed a lot since I last took a team away. So what we did is we got all these cards, and we had all these, you can see all these different values words on all these cards. And together we chose the cards, and each of the cards have colours on them as well. And I'll explain that in just a minute. But essentially what we did is we chose our values. So we were the incredible raging elephants. Now that's what we call a crazy acronym, or I call it a crazy quote acronym. Okay. And that meant that our values stood for improvement, respect, and enjoyment. So that's how we remembered what we stood for. We were the incredible raging elephants, and then each of those words meant something. So, for example, with improvement, we visualized every single morning on the top floor of the hotel in Malaysia. Under respect, we had to ask the Malaysian Uber drivers a question about their culture every single morning. And with enjoyment, we warmed up to this rap song called Pray For Us every single day. We did this like a warm-up routine. And all the other countries were like, why? They look like they're having so much fun. So our values drove our behaviours, and our behaviours was the reason that we ended up winning Asia Oceania and then finishing 6th in the World Championships in Budapest that year. But I promise you, one of the keys to this whole unit, it was not, I'm Emma Doyle, I'm your coach, listen to me because, you better do this, otherwise look out. It was, okay, well, what do you want this team to look like? What's important to you? Are we still going to work on our improvement every day? And then the behaviours drove the success of the team. So pretty cool little story. And I've been using this little card method that I'm going to teach everybody tonight for absolutely years. And it's a combination of different things that I've learnt throughout my time as a life coach and so forth. So let's get started on sharing some of those concepts with you. So now we're in section 2, as we always do. Now we go over the strategies. I always give you 5 strategies and 3 tactics to be able to implement the game plan. So strategy number 1 is really important, that we understand what's called the values chain. So if you put yourself up the top here and you actually choose your values, they then form your beliefs, what you believe to be true. And then from those beliefs, you can imagine that's really now what forms your attitude down here towards everything that you do. That ultimately your behavior is a result of your values, your beliefs, and your attitudes that then impact your results. So the chain, it's a continuous cycle, And obviously your values change over the years. So what you value at 13 years of age is going to be different to what you value at 16 years of age. And that's good. That's change obviously is inevitable, as we know from our module 1 on awareness. And it's really important that we understand not only the chain, but also where values come from. So I'm going to ask you to get interactive again on the chat box now. And here's an opportunity for you to type in, where do you think your values, where do they come from? Like, who influences your values? What do you think? Like, where do they come from? Who might influence what you believe to be true? So a value might be, if I believe in excellence, yeah, thank you, beautiful. Parents might, if I really value excellence, and maybe my parents might have really pushed that into me. Not even pushed is an unforced error by me with my language there. Instilled or embed is a better word. Teachers, fantastic mentors, family. Any other ideas? Has anyone got any other things? Where else do values come from? Yeah, coaches. Yeah, the tennis pros, how they coach you, the way they coach you. You know, what's their language like? What about yourself? Your values come from yourself, Julia. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Excellent. Your culture. What, when I coached at a club in Japan, would you believe with tennis, all they focused on for the first 6 months was footwork. You didn't even pick up a racket. You weren't allowed to pick up a racket until you'd done 6 months of footwork. Imagine that. Imagine that going in America and Australia, where basically you weren't even allowed to play tennis yet. You had to get your footwork right for 6 months. Your faith, your religion, absolutely, all impacts. What about friendships? So have a think about now, just reflect on who are the 5 people that you hang out with the most. Think about who those 5 friends are, because that will be a reflection of who you are. So have a think about those friends and the influence that they have on you. Yeah, some great answers there. So thanks everyone. I love that everyone's getting in the chat box. That's awesome. So that's strategy number 1, values chain. And remember, I'm going to pick one and I'm going to test you at the end there to who can type in one of the strategies. So see if you can remember them. Values chain was number 1. So the second strategy is what I call conflict or congruent. So this is the strategy. I don't know if you've seen this before, when someone says, don't do it, come over, don't do it, come here. So it's like that they push you away, but then they want you to come. It's the same with your values. So just as an example, if you value something along the lines of, let's say, take Nick Kyrgios as a great example. He obviously values fun, adventure, creativity, okay? But maybe that his coach wants him to do just 30 minutes of cross-court forehands. So his highest value of creativity is in conflict with potentially what somebody wants him to do. And therefore, you can see there's a little bit of an unhappiness there, potentially. So there's an example. But imagine if your values are totally congruent. So again, you take Nick Kyrgios the other way. If he's working with a coach who values and allows him to do half an hour of little mini tennis and little games in the service box, then maybe he'll hit cross-court forehands for 10 minutes instead of 30 minutes. And that will be more in line with his values. So there's no right or wrong. But the most important thing with this, is understanding the colours on the cards. So on the back of these cards, they're all color-coded. And the colours with these values can either attract or they can repel. So take, for example, the yellow. We'll start with the yellow and the orange. So if I value quality of life and I value excellence, if I'm so busy trying to be the best version of myself, potentially I may not have the best quality of life. So it can repel. Or on the other hand, if I've gone ahead and I'm successful and I've I've really lived excellence, then I might have a better quality of life. So the orange and the yellow cards either retract or repel. We've got the green and the red cards, a bit like the example I just gave. So the red is all about self-expression. So if I really value adventure and I want to, every time, you know, I'm on the road traveling at a tournament, I want to go into the aquarium or I want to go and see different things. But the green card is a traditional value like loyalty and or just doing the right thing and being there and being humble. Then these two can either attract or they can repel. So I can be so loyal to my team that then we've got time for adventure. Or if I'm so busy being adventurous, maybe I'm not really looking after my team. So the red and the green. And then finally, the purple and the pink. So the purple is all about team and family, and this is sorry, hang on 2 seconds. Okay, so I've made an unforced error there. Sorry, on the slide, those colours should be round the other way. That happens. If you ever make an unforced error, you just own it. So the pink is your inner development. That should read inner development, and the purple is relationships. So apologies there. But anyway, hopefully you still understand the concept, which is that if you're so busy looking after your family and your team, but yet you really value self-improvement, maybe you're so busy focused on your inner self that you're not spending any time with your family. Or alternatively, if you look after yourself properly, then you've got plenty of time for your family. So purple and pink repel and attract. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of background on just really understanding the conflict between the values, or the values can be congruent if you understand the colours. So hopefully that wasn't too heavy, but that is the second strategy, and it's really, really important that we understand that concept. So strategy number 3, these are the behaviours. So the one on the PowerPoint there are the actual examples from the Junior Fed Cup story that I told earlier. So for example, one behaviour that we said we wanted to be the first team down at the buffet breakfast every single day. So what do you think? Who can type in the chat box? What do you think that behaviour, which value did that relate to? Improvement, respect, or enjoyment? If we're the first to breakfast every single day, improvement, respect, or enjoyment? What do you think? First one to write it in the chat box. And yeah, beautiful. Love it. Well done, boys. Good work. That was a team effort there. The twins got it. So if we did that, then as a team, it's showing the other countries and respect. So you really couldn't get that answer wrong as well. So I was just wrapped that the boys were in there first. Because it shows that we're improving as a team. We're dedicating ourselves to, didn't matter what time our practice was, that we were the first there. It showed respect also for the other countries. We had never had our mobile phones on the table at breakfast as well. So, and we didn't have as I just said, no mobile phones are sitting on the table there, because as we know from our module number 2 on patterns, the minute your mobile phone vibrates on the table, what's the first thing you do? You can't help yourself. You're already checking your messages. So, so there's some of the little things that we did. But your values, remember, form your behaviours. Your values form your behaviours. So that's strategy number 3. That's absolutely critical in understanding values. Strategy number 4 is frequency. So in other words, a lot of people, as I mentioned earlier, they say, oh yeah, my company or my team has values, but they have no idea what they are. Yeah, we've got values. We really believe in values. Okay, what are they? No idea what they are, because they're not seeing them frequently. The old saying, out of sight, out of mind. So if you're not seeing the values, then it's very hard to remember them, and they're not definitely top of your mind, and they're definitely not going to be embedded in your subconscious for you to live them. So being able to see them, I'm going to show you a really cool way to do that with frequency. And then the final strategy is number 5, which is authenticity. So authenticity means, again, remember, checking in with yourself and checking in with someone else, like a little bit of an accountability buddy, so that you actually get some feedback. Because what you do when nobody else is watching will determine whether you are living true to your values. Okay, and if you can do that in your sport and you can live that off the court, like if who you are off the court is the same as who you are on the court, and the more you can live authentically and the more their values can be aligned, there's no doubt that you will be more successful in your sport. So it's not just, you know, most people are competitive on court are usually competitive off court. Not all the time, but it's 70% pretty accurate. You know, I think it is really important, you know, we look at Roger Federer. I mean, he's completely authentic off the court as what he is on the court. He really seems to live his values. So, you know, I mean, on the flip side, Lance Armstrong, the cyclist, you know, definitely live strong was his big value message. And of course he was taking illegal drugs. So he wasn't living authentically. And of course that you know, everyone sits down to a banquet of consequences. Which he certainly had to face his own consequence when he wasn't living his values. So first person to type in the chat box, what was strategy number 3? Who can remember? What was strategy number 3? What was it? It was, because this is really important, because our values drive our, starts with the letter B. Yes, Julia, awesome, good work. Behaviours, I love it, you had to go there, boys, again. Beliefs are important, very, very good. But behaviours, remember, our values drive our behaviours. That was strategy number 3. So I'll stop for a minute, but we're just about to go to our tactics. Are there any questions? Has anyone got any questions that they want to ask? Is anyone didn't understand something or need me to go back to any of the strategies? Or is anyone, just type in the chat box if anyone's got a question. Otherwise, I will keep going along. If there are no questions, I want you just to type in the chat box, I got this. Tell me you're with me. I got this. Go. Who's going to be the first person to type it in? I want to see it. Go. I got this. All right. We got it. All right. Time to move on. Love it, everybody. Beautiful. Excellent. Okay. So strategy we're up to section 3. Okay. Which is the how, which is our tactics. All right. This is how we implement the actual strategies. This bit is super cool. And I highly recommend, if you've got a team, you'll see in a minute how much fun this values exercise can be. So tactic number 1, okay, are the cards. Okay. So, and the sentence is really, really important. So what you do with the cards is you look at each of the value words on the cards and you say, so I would say, in the context of, and then insert your sport. So for me, I would say, in the context of tennis, I value, and then this first one is appearance. And then I would put it in 3 piles, always, sometimes, or rarely. And I start with the cards on the white side before I flip them over. Same word on both sides of the cards, but the color-coded is on the back. So for me, appearance, sometimes. I value that sometimes. The next one, in the context of my tennis, I value ambition. To me, I like to be ambitious, so I would say I always value that. In the context of tennis, I value power. So I would say rarely, that's not that important to me. In the context of my tennis, I value success. Yes, always, that's very important to me. Mental toughness, contribution, friendships, teammates, consistency, etc., etc., etc. So you make 3 piles, always, sometimes, and rarely, with your values cards. Okay. Then once you've got your 3 piles, you then group obviously you take your top pile and you group any like-minded ones together. So for example, success, achievement, power, maybe the word there for you is excellence, and you group all of those together, but you keep one of those cards. Maybe that's the way that what word stands out for you. And then after you group the like-minded ones together, you get together with your team, or remember, you do this as an individual exercise. Okay, as you can see there, you pick your top 3 values. Okay, so guess what I'm going to ask you to do? You know what I'm going to ask you to do. In the chat box, just type in, have a look at, now think about in the context of your sport, lacrosse, soccer, whatever it might be, ask yourself, in the context I value, and pick in the chat box what top 3 words, or maybe you already have them, maybe you already know them, what do you value? If you're a parent, in the context of my parenting, I value. Pick your top 3 there. Have a go and type it in the chat box. Type it, see how it goes. See what we've got. I value grit, perseverance, and respect. Thank you, Lauren. Fantastic. Fantastic. Excellent. Creativity, fun, and success. Beautiful, beautiful. Excellent values. I love those. Really, really good. So I think everyone's getting the idea. All right. And we've got another one come in. Beautiful. Integrity and respect. Fantastic. Excellent. So again, no right or wrong answers, but here's the really cool part. Once everybody picks their top 3 values, what you then do is you have a code of silence. So everybody is silent, but people vote on the values. They vote either 3 points, 2 points, or 1 point per value. So let's say if you were a team, even some of the people that have written in the chat box, let's say that everybody would vote on the word grit. So because one of our team members has chosen that word, so you'd either give it 3 points, 2 points, or 1 point, or no points. But if everybody's silent, you go around the team and all you do is you add up the points. So, and you do that very, very quickly, because hopefully everyone can add 3 plus 3 or 3 plus 2 or 2 plus 1. And you do that so quickly that people don't even know who voted for what. It's a really, really cool exercise. I've done it heaps of times and it works really effectively. And then you'll come up with your top 3 values for your team. And then I highly recommend you also then have 3 for yourself. Tactic number 2 is then you would put that in some form of a pyramid behaviours. So your top value, let's just say if you were my team, maybe we would go, everybody voted grit was our value number 1 as a team, remember. Then we also valued fun for value number 2. And then over here for value number 3, success. So let's just say we voted on that. So it was grit, fun, and success. Okay, what we would do then, that would be the top 3. Then 4, 5, and 6, you could put in your own personal values. So for example, you might put at the bottom, grit, perseverance, and respect might be your 3 drivers down the bottom, or you might change them because grit was already up here. So you've got your team at the top, and then you've got your individual ones down the bottom. And on the side here, of course, are your behaviors. So how are you going to show grit? Okay, so grit might mean, or means different things to different people. But essentially, what about if your training starts at 6 o'clock? Maybe grit for you, your behavior is that you're going to get there at 5:30 and do a proper dynamic flex warm up till 5:45. And then you're going to do something before everybody else gets there to show how determined you are and show how gritty you are. Perhaps it's that, or you're going to, and actually do your cool down. The biggest thing athletes don't do is cool downs. Maybe you're going to do yoga once a week, whatever it might be, but they're the behaviors that then complement the team's values, which is really critical. And now finally, let's have some fun with the last one. Get ready to have a go at this exercise. Tactic number 3, this is the fun bit, okay? The crazy quote or acronym. So I'm going to give you some examples, and then I want you to start thinking about the ones that we chose on this webinar, on this live webinar. We chose grit, fun, and success. So this team here, they called themselves Reese's Peanut Butter. Okay, and what did that stand for? Their values were Reese's, which stood for respect, peanut, which stood for personal growth, and then butter, which stood for a balanced life. And then, of course, the last word, the Reese's Peanut Butter Classic, was what they had 4 values. And then the last C was for commitment. Another team, an elite team that I've worked with, they called themselves the Can-Cans. So I don't know if maybe some of you might be a bit too young, but a can-can dancer, they were the Can-Cans, which stood for commitment, ambition, and non-negotiables. That was an elite Scottish netball team that I worked with. And then a business partner, friend of mine, worked with a US college tennis team as only a couple of weeks ago. And have a look. This one was pretty cool because their team, their little mascot is this person over here, this little hornet. And in the context of their team, they valued work ethic, mental toughness, and sportsmanship. And of course, their little motto for this little character is "We must sting." So "We must sting" was their crazy acronym to help them remember their work ethic, their mental toughness, and their sportsmanship or manship. And of course, that them holds them accountable to their values. That Scottish netball team, there's commitment, ambition, and non-negotiables. With the non-negotiables, they had a white line on their playing field, and every time they took a step over that white line, they had to leave their stuff at the door. They weren't allowed to bring all their baggage onto the court. They had to leave. The only thing they could focus on was the activity or the game in that moment. They weren't allowed to be focused on bringing other stuff from other past situations onto the court. And if they did, they had to step back, like we called it the white line fever. They had to step back over the line and leave their crap at the door. So that's how you determine the values that go with the crazy quote. So, of course, what does that mean? We're going to now jump in the chat box and we're going to have a little bit of fun. And we did a makeshift imaginary team tonight. We chose grit, fun, and success. So guess what you've got to do? Come up with a crazy quote that with the letters G, F, and S. Okay, so think outside the box. It can be absolutely anything. I love that the boys are brainstorming. I can see them thinking and coming up with something. It could be as simple as go find sun. Perhaps if you were a team that lived in a cold climate. It could be as simple as, what else? What else have we got? GFS. It could be gather for success. I can't think of anything crazy. Has anyone got anything? That's all I'm coming. Oh, yes. Love it. Julia, you have got it. Great funky slugs. I love it. Giant flamingo science. Excellent. Excellent. You see, I love it. You kids are way more creative than I am. So that's why I love this exercise. And so that then can help us as a team. Then together we say, right, well, what is grit? How are we going to show grit? Maybe we have to chase every ball down until it bounces twice. Maybe in lacrosse, we get rewarded with a one field suicide at the end of each training. I don't know, rather than seeing fitness as a punishment. Goated Federer serve. Excellent, excellent. You have got this. Everyone's got it. So that's exactly what you want to do. And of course, then that helps everybody remember it. I mean, I had a junior team once, What do we got? Giant for Sundays. Yeah, especially chocolate ones. Nice one, Lauren. Love it. I had a team, they called themselves the Squad, and it was firm but fair but fun. The triple Fs, they loved saying we're the Squad. They wanted us to be firm on them, but they wanted us to be fair on them, and they wanted to have heaps of fun. So that was a great little, all right. Thank you for everyone interacting into our little makeshift live webinar for that exercise as we move now into the game plan. All right, goldfish snipers, bring it on. Bring it on. Great ideas, everybody. All right, so if you want to win the game for this week, this is what you have to do. Obviously, for 15 points this week, you are invited to pick your top 3 values. Okay, again, remember that these webinars are on YouTube. So if you're not sure what values, those values cards, just rewatch the webinar on the Centercourt YouTube channel and pause it when you see that screen come up, and make sure you can use those cards to look at the values. Pick your top 3 for 15 points. If you want to get 30 points, you have to pick one specific tangible behavior per value. So if you value grit, then there has to be an associated behavior. It can't just be, I'm going to try really hard. That's not a tangible behavior. Again, maybe grit, with regards to grit, is that you're going to do a 3-minute activity and you're only allowed less than 10 unforced errors to show your grit. You're going to 2-on-1 activity for tennis. For other sports, again, whatever grit means to you, give yourself a challenge. You have to attach a behavior to the values. And if you want to get 40 points, you have to choose your crazy quote acronym, and you've got to put it up on your wall or in a prominent position so you can see it. So you've got to create this crazy quote. And of course, what will I be doing next week? At the start of Module 5, I'll be checking in and I'll be asking everyone if they can share their goldfish sniper quote with everybody. So that's the game plan if you want to win the game for this week's module on values. So hopefully that made sense. As we do each week, we celebrate your time. Thank you everybody for your time in investing in being here. But remember, it's important to be here live. I mean, I really respect everybody that's given up their time to watch this webinar, but it only matters if you take what. Who can type in the chat box? If I'm a motivation and an activation speaker, none of this means anything unless you take what. What will be the word there that I'm looking for starting with A? Only if you take action. So write down in the chat box, what are you going to take action on? What are you going to take action on? Maybe you're going to go to your team and say, hey, what are our values? Maybe you're going to go to your coach. You could ask your coach what your values are. Maybe you're going to get 15 points. Maybe you're going to write down, pick one value and one behavior. I'd love to hear, what are you going to take action on? You're going to look over your values and ask your team, ask your coach, ask where you train. What do we value? Why is this important? Excellent. What's everyone else going to take action on? Because remember, only celebrate if you take. None of this means anything. It'd be a complete waste of time, remember, unless you take action. Perhaps you're going to do the card activity. I highly recommend it, but please remember to take action. So, all right, what's next? What's coming up? I have mentioned it twice. Who can remember? What's module 5? Has anyone got any idea? I have mentioned it twice. The first word is that. I've just typed it in the chat box. It lives at the top of the Genius model. Under confidence, it is yourself. Starts with E. Yourself. Yeah, good job. Well done. It's your self-esteem. All right. And the reason it sits at the top of the Genius model is because it's the crown. You can only have confidence if you build your self-esteem layer by layer. So next week, we're going to be looking at your superpowers, your inner core superpowers, and what you are the possibility of. So that's what's coming up next week, which I'm really excited about. Module 5, self-esteem. Remember, as I do every week, I try and hit my camera on my screen. The ball is in your... Oh, I actually got it this week. The ball is in your court, and when you take action on your values. So time for our Centercourt open Q&A as I stop sharing my screen now. And let me just stop that so I can see. If anyone wants to ask me a question, you can unmute yourself, because we don't have Conrad or Tara on with us. If you want to just put up your hand and then unmute yourself, and you can ask me absolutely anything to do with values. If someone's got a question, or you can type it in the chat box. I'll have the chat box up as well. Whatever you are more comfortable in asking questions. Has anyone got anything that they didn't understand, or you want me to revisit, or anything that I can support anyone with, or any question at all? You don't need to be shy. No, did everything make sense? Everything was perfect. Tonight's webinar was easy. All right. Okay. So if there's no questions, then I invite everyone again, remember, just to take action. And of course, please rewatch the webinar if you want ideas on the cards and all the different values cards. Or please note that these are homemade too. So my cards are homemade, but as you can probably see from the edges, I've been using them for about 10 years as well. My nieces made them for me even when they were home from school once. So you don't need to, you can reuse these cards once you make them for yourself. I certainly do my values every single year. I usually do, I check in and I have my values for the 12-month period. So my values for 2020 were the E factors, so energy, empathy, and enjoyment. So that's how I remember them, the E factors, nice and easy. Nothing too crazy about that. Remember, it doesn't have to be totally crazy, but definitely a way for me to live my energy in terms of my passion and what I believe in. My empathy, being able to really walk alongside somebody and sense what they're feeling and thinking and seeing. And finally, enjoyment. Everything I do, I try and enjoy and have a good time. Why not? Because, you know, life is too short not to enjoy it. So I hope you all enjoyed the webinar. And if you did, I'd love just for you to type in the chat box what you're grateful for. And then we'll probably sign it off if no one's got any questions. So I'm just going to type in my gratitude. And I appreciate everyone. For being here and joining us. And thanks, Lauren. Say hi to your mum for me. Excellent. Boys, thank you for your participation, and appreciate you jumping in the chat box as frequently as you did. That was awesome. Great work. Great work. Excellent. Grateful for my health. Me too. Me too. Everyone stay healthy, stay safe, and absolutely. Please take action on your values, because they definitely drive your behavior, and they are the compass. If you want to achieve your goals and your dreams, then make sure your values are guiding you in that direction. So, all right, well, no questions. So I will sign off 10 minutes early. And everyone take care. And thanks again for everyone. Thanks. See you next week, and for Module 5 on self-esteem and confidence. And have a wonderful rest of everyone's evenings or day, wherever you are in the world. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
See you, boys. Bye, Henry. Thank you, Henry, for checking in.